I'm just going to log in properly.
Oh, no.
Here, 1 minute, go on the next.
Grand entrance.
Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you again next week, eh?
There we are. I don't know why he did that.
What's the fanfare entrance?
You missed Ian's piece. That's where you came, and he's gone.
Is he going to come back again? What's he going to do? Hello there to everybody. I hope you're all well all around the world. Got a lot of you there. Apparently, there's some sort of ranking thing. YouTube search for Nose was the only result. Good man, Fun Pavolt. Well, I don't know why Ian's chosen to go, and then we'll wait for him to come back. But good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be in the world. How are you getting on beating the council, Brucey?
I'm just waiting now. Just waiting. Yeah, the elections are 2 months away. I can just sit and bide my time and talk to the people in the street that stop me and say, "Who should I vote for?"
Wow. That's quite a thing. That is quite
a local
radio
station, local guy from the local radio station stopped me in the street the other day and said, "Oh, got to interview you." So, yeah, it's nice being a kingmaker, I suppose.
you are Tokoroa's Elon Musk.
Exactly.
Very good. You can tell from my attire that Bruce and I are in the southern hemisphere and Steve isn't. Good evening,
There are no heat domes.
Oh, yeah, he's fine. There are no heat domes. Beardies. Oh, dear.
It's still light. It's still light. It's still light. I can see the...
here he comes. Here he comes. He's coming back. He's coming back. Right.
So
there we are.
I'm having trouble with this StreamYard. It's doing my nut and it won't let me log in properly. So I could chat to people in the comments as well. So I can't. Boo-hoo.
Oh. Well,
just run another window with YouTube.
Well, how on earth are you getting in here then? If you can't see the comments.
Oh, you can go in for your link, and if you create an account, you can then go in via your email address, and then if you do your email address, you can do comments, but it won't let me. It won't give me the code, the 2-factor auth code to log in.
It knows about you. It definitely knows about you. I've been delaying like Billy-O before. I mean, Ian's had me on a merry dance this week. I don't suppose in the comments we've got any F-15 drivers. It'd be really handy if we had an F-15 driver to tell us about the lights.
I think we only have the man that collects the tickets at the back.
But interestingly, interestingly, so we've been doing things, and Ian and I looked at Lakenheath recently, and look, this chat's been live, and we know where this viewing spot is. But look at the detail and the on the background of things you're seeing for sort of intelligence gathering. There's so much of it out there. It's nuts. And what was that in the background there? Oh, there's an advert. We don't want the advert. Right, let's stop that one. Let's go on to this bit though. Let's share this tab instead. So these are the lights that we're wondering about, isn't it, Ian? And I think there's going to be a better shot.
See, interestingly, already that looks like it doesn't have all its navigation lights on, because if you notice when it's coming down, the left-hand side,
white light on the tail, isn't it?
That's supposed to have a white light lit up. That does look like it might have the formation light on one of them on the front, but it does look like, including on the night when the National Police Air Service. See, the problem that was revealed. Well, I'm jumping a bit ahead, but for the benefit of the audience, obviously all these weeks we've been trying to unpack what was going on at Lakenheath, and the freedom of information to come and always giving slightly different and misleading information.
That white one's definitely off.
Yeah, exactly. So then this is Lakenheath.
Blown bulb.
Blown bulb, yeah.
So what has happened is that on Friday, and it looked as though, to be fair, I'm with Gary, that it looked as though it's trying to be sneaked out. See, earlier on in the week, there was the report for the month for all the air proxies, and for some reason, the Lakenheath one wasn't on it, and we were like, puzzled, and I had even messaged the air prox board and said, why is this not in it? And I didn't get a reply. It was all silent. And then credit to Mike, who's been on the show before and is kind of into the UAP scene. he noticed that it had just been published, and he goes, "It's out," and it was a shocker for a number of reasons. But we'll jump on to what's important here with what Gary's showing. It's the National Police Air Service helicopter said they'd mistook it for a drone because all they could see was a red light, and they say their camera system had only picked up a red light, which kind of suggests they'd recorded that evidence, but we'll have to find out. But the F-15 pilot had said, I had my entire set of lights on. So he's saying he's had anti-collision, that he's had his navigation lights, and that he's had the formation lights on. But looking at takeoffs from Lakenheath, including around, I think actually on the date, there's definitely pilots taking off without the full set of lights on. So it looks like they haven't got the navigation lights on, and I think even formation lights aren't on either. So it suggests that the MPAS, I mean, if we unpack it fully, we can go into it, but I think on this particular issue, in fact, you can see the formation light at the back there as well. On this particular one, I think National Police Air Service might have a fair gripe of saying, hang on, wait a minute, there we go. It wasn't fully lit up, and that's why we made a mistake. So there is a worry there. And by coincidence, days after this, the United States Air Force put a NOTAM out for the Lakenheath base, saying that some pilots were flying around without the lights on. And it's like, was that planned all along, or had they realised that could have been a contributory factor and thinking, oops, we better do something to make sure nothing comes of it? We really don't know. Yes,
Johnny D, yeah, it wasn't last week's. Well, did we talk about it last week? I can't remember.
It hadn't come out by then, but we have been talking about it in general, haven't we?
This is the one that caused the airspace closures in the UK. 11 no-fly zones around the UK, and has allowed the narrative to continue. It's nasty drones, it's nasty drones, it's nasty drones. It just helps fulfill that. But the police helicopter turned around and got out there at V&E. It went flat out to get out of the way. They thought it was a clear and present danger because everyone was saying it's a drone. It's the sky's falling. There's an Acon's falling on my head. The sky's falling in. The sky's falling in. So there's all sorts of issues, and it's made in. We've been looking at F-15 lights and. Oh,
could it have been?
You should have had Tom Cruise on here as a guest to give a bit more clarity on.
Well, he did stay just up the road. He honestly, for that last Mission Impossible, if you've seen the Mission Impossible with the Drakensberg in the background, that's just over my shoulder. He did stay in a farm.
Maybe the lights were on. Maybe the lights were on, but they were covered in red paint.
Well,
that's another.
Yeah.
By the way, a question: How big and how much time were those no-fly zones in place that they put in there? Because I wonder how many drone operators lost the ability to fly, lost the ability to work, and lost money due to this incident.
Wow, I'm not sure. I think that when did they go out? I've forgotten now, Ian.
They put them out in December. Because it was coming up to Christmas, and we got wind of the CAA would be putting out a communication, but we didn't know what it was. And that was the worry, because, again, they always love Christmas time for some reason to put out negative drone propaganda. And so the fear was, how bad is this going to be? And then it was, we're getting all these no-fly zones. Now, some of them are arguably justified. Because
it's only around American infrastructure. Though.
Yes,
all of the UK bases you get them, but it's oh, sorry, I'm jumping on you, but Ian. But one of the big problems that's a very much a known. And if you enjoy your aviation, you'll know this. 1812. Hello, is it? No, it's not. Oh. How's it, mate? Oh, happy elbows up, happy Canada Day, and all that sort of a thing. Winning since 1812. Happy Canada Day, mate. I hope you're all right. I hope you're good. Because here's our Canadian. What I was going to say, we'll we'll get to you in a minute. Oh, he's gone already. Well, there we are. What did I want to say? I wanted to say that the F-15s were operating on UHF. The helicopter was on VHF. I don't know that the same controller was working the both of them, but it seems that the F-15s and the helicopter were not given traffic information about each other. So they neither knew what was happening. The police helicopter was tasked to go and look for a dastardly drone, and oh my word, some lights came towards them at high speed, and it wasn't. They were separated vertically, not too much. It was within risk, but there's all sorts of basic aviation things that need to be unpacked with this incident that are being, in my opinion, hidden. I would like to see the transcript or hear the recording of the police helicopter when it arrived on frequency to Lakenheath to when it departed off frequency. All traffic, VHF and UHF. I suspect left-hand, right, exactly. That's exactly right, Simon. It was happening on different frequencies. And if the controller had the switches selected, so when he transmitted on both frequencies at the same time, then all would have been good. The helicopter wouldn't have known exactly where the traffic was he was talking to, but he would have known they were talking to F-15s. Or maybe it was two controllers, one on V and one on U. But they should have coordinated. They should have coordinated what was going on in there. And so in the incident report, we get that the TCAS didn't see the F-15s. Well, of course it didn't, because the F-15s aren't fitted with TCAS. They're not fitted with ADS-B either, etc.
Do you know what would have solved this problem, guys?
RID.
Remote ID, yes, absolutely.
RID for F-15s.
I'll tell you what genuinely would have solved it. Pilots being aware that drones don't have high power LEDs, for nav lights on them. So the moment they were seeing this bright light, that was the indication straight away that it wasn't a drone, that it was a manned craft that they were pursuing. And especially when you're going at over 100 miles an hour and it's still in front of you. Because by the time you'd seen that, if you're going 100 miles an hour, a second later, that's going for you.
You're absolutely right. Yes. Not only would remote ID have solved it, but Serverland would definitely have solved it. You keep talking, guys. Of course, I have to find a picture of Serverland now.
Yeah, well,
for those that don't know.
I'm trying to think of what else we discovered. Oh, one thing that was interesting in the airprocs when I was reading it and thinking back of all that's gone on, because the only thing, because we all knew this was a thing where it was like potential drone misidentification right from the start, because it was doing things that drones can and at speeds and so on. But the only thing that was keeping us thinking, well, is there something, was the fact that he had an experienced aircrew. So it was always just experienced aircrew, benefit of the doubt. But this has actually demonstrated absolutely perfectly that an experienced aircrew, even with EOIR, if someone has put the idea into your head beforehand that there is a drone, the confirmation bias will override almost your common sense. You will accept that something is a drone, and you won't be thinking, oh, wait a minute, drones don't have high power lighting. Drones don't go at 160 miles an hour. A drone won't be climbing like that, spinning around and doing these things. But suddenly, all that seems to go out the window because, you've had, you'd have probably had from mention from Lakenheath base, you've had mention from the local force saying it's a drone. But it's just frustrating that people aren't thinking, properly thinking this can't be a drone. What else could it be? But again, this helps kind of reinforce, past things such as Gatwick, where again you had the police on the ground, which weren't experts, and now I've got police in the sky. The very people that have been the least likely to make this mistake have done it. So if they can do it, anyone can do it. And what was interesting with this as well was normally with an air prox, if it's a drone air prox, and funnily enough, there was a drone air prox the month after, and the month after that, it was in the report, and it was, it's a drone air prox. They don't normally get investigated. Now, this one has been. So that might be because there's a police helicopter involved. It might be because it was near the US bases. It might be because the BBC was interested. It might be because there's so many freedom of informations. In fact, it could have been all of those factors put together, and it's been investigated. But the point is, as standard, if you get an air proxy of a drone, these kind of questions should be asked. You know, was there something on radar? Was there something else flying about that could have been mistaken? And we don't ask those questions. And until we do, we will get situations like this in future. And we'll certainly get a lot of air proxies that are logged as drones that never were. And I would hope that this will actually demonstrate to, it's like the CAAs of the world, that this is the reality, that people are reporting drones that aren't there, and that maybe we ought, well, there's no maybe about it, we definitely ought to be doing a better job with the air prox process and really nailing this down and saying, look, we've got to have a proper investigation at the end that makes
I think
far more successes out of the data it gets of getting getting to the right decision at the end.
Well, Bruce said it. He said it's the narrative, and it was definitely the narrative in some ways because they let the story run and run and run. They would have known on the night. On the night, they would have known why the helicopter turned around and ran away at V&E. They'd have known on the night.
And I think this is maybe why the CAA said there hasn't been a drone air prox, because although it had been filed as one, they might have already decided this is a mistake already, and that would have been very, very, very early on. So people shouldn't have been blagging us. They should have said, yes, there has been one filed. And then you can say, but we're not to the end of the process, so this could change. Well, everybody's happy. It's a truth. And you've not given anything away. But the
CAA hadn't fibbed because they had been filed. But they
said, has a drone air prox been filed? It had been filed. The fact that it's wrong's neither here nor there. That's the kind of thing you shouldn't be doing on freedom of information. If you are, you're gaming it. And that's where the problems come. But the very fact up until the day before, or that you've got National Police Air Service saying it's an object. Well, it's not an object either. It's definitely not the object classification. It's classified as a manned aircraft. They should have been saying it's a manned aircraft. Well, because they clearly knew by then. So it's like, why is there the games?
Oh, they'd have known that the helicopter allegedly turned around with a deal of panic in the cockpit, and there was we know there's recordings, and nobody's responded to me for those. We know people have recordings of the radio.
I thought, well, when you start reading it and you realise what happened, I'm absolutely certain one of the people that was recording what had gone on and knew very well what had gone on through the communications between ATC had been selling or providing that data to journalists, and that's how the story had got out into newspapers, I would wager. And that's why they had this whole thing of a drone, because that was literally what the National Police Air Service pilot was reporting. He was doing that over the airwaves that people can hear and can record and can tell journalists about. That there was a drone, and and repeatedly saying it's a drone. So you can understand now how this picture was put together, this really fast drone that was doing things that aren't drone-like, because it wasn't a drone. That's why it wasn't drone-like.
Yeah, it's an extraordinary. I did a little video on Friday. I was pretty angry on Friday. I was pretty angry. The whole thing was. I don't know. What did the other boys make of it? What do you think about it, Bruce?
Were you guys as angry as Steven in his last video?
Yeah, that was good, wasn't it?
No, I wasn't that angry. No. No, yes. If you haven't seen Steven's Angry Man video, I suggest you do. Let's get it up to 1 million views.
I've not seen
upset
it.
Some.
Not
have
for
you not seen
users.
it? I don't think I can. I don't think I'll be allowed to actually put this on here.
No,
he was a very, very angry man. Let's underline this one, and then we'll go on to the angry man, because lots of people in the comments would know what the topic's about. But Bruce, before we go on to the angry man, what was your take on the F-15?
Oh, it's just another case of the whole narrative thing. If blame a drone, then if the facts change, well, issue a retroactive NOTAM and sort it out. It's a fiasco. It's a mess. If we ran our affairs like that, we wouldn't be allowed to fly.
And the retroactive thing, that doesn't even normally happen either. It is literally just good fortune. And this genuinely doesn't happen. There's never normally an investigation like this. So I think National Police Air Service and everyone else were probably thinking this is never going to get looked at when we're in the clear. We can call it a drone. For a fact, if the Airprox board hadn't have done the due diligence and established it was the F-15, we'd have had the CAA using this. Next consultation, it's probably in there. DFT would be using it. A Home Office would be using it. NPCC would be using it. We would have had a barrage against the entire industry again of, you've endangered a police helicopter. So that I'm just really glad that in the end the facts have come out this time, and I do think freedom of information and then the questions played the part, and I do think actually these need to continue on slightly because we still got all the messing about of incident logs which are normally provided with dates and times being refused and stuff. It's like, no, stop playing games, because the game they were trying to play was, it's a drone, it's national security. Well, now that's out of the window. It's not, because we all know what it is. It should be, no, we're being straight now. Here's the information, and we just move on, case closed. But I have a feeling, as we've seen with freedom of information in the past, things will be dragged out for the sake of dragging them out. But we shall see.
I think it's also how many other times has this happened? How, when you think of all the, accusations that have been flying around from from pilots that saying that it was a drone, and it's. I mean, this happens globally, and it's absolutely ridiculous that drones get blamed all the time. But we know in reality that's probably not.
The thing that annoys me is when they thought it was a drone, the helicopter had to retreat because the pilot and people were in danger of their lives. But when it turned into an F-15, there was never any danger.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There was massive separation, and I wonder if that helicopter, if it really ran away at V&E, you wonder how many inspections it had to have. But let's not forget, there were, I think, 3 F-15s and a tanker airborne, money burning, looking for this elusive drone. So let's join up some dots here. So no, although the counter UAS gear apparently appeared at Lakenheath after this, but if you look at that video, and purportedly it's on top of the tower. If you look at that video live from Lakenheath last week, where he videos the tower all day long, I can't see it. I can't see the antennas on the roof. So anyway, so the drones managed to not be seen by the ball turret of a police helicopter, which is a really powerful thing. Works day and night, has all the sensors, all the gear. And they were seeing it from a long way away. Well, they certainly were seeing an F-15, and the F-15s and their magic kit didn't see anything, and their traffic control didn't see anything. So all these, anyway.
And obviously Lakenheath base has the drone radar as well, and it has lightly aeroscope, judging by all the other kit, all the other bases have on site. So they'd have been getting a negative. That's trouble you see again. If there isn't a drone there, so it's a negative, the assumption is there is one there. So that's the trouble why ridding that will never work, because the absence of a drone is always assumed to be there is one present, and it's not. I
think we need a new red card though. I don't think you're actually allowed to say RID won't work anymore. I think RID will always work because that's what we have to say now.
And they don't need antennas there. They've got a phone with the app on it for detecting drones.
Yeah, it's just an absolute. I'm going to get like him now. It's an absolute shit show.
I need to jump in because there's a few people, because I don't want it to be just I'd be doing freedom of information, because obviously it's not the case. There's
that's Mike.
Names right. So we've got obviously Mike Morgan, who's been on the show, and then there's Mr. Onyesh, who hasn't ever been on the show. I think he wants to be a man of mystery. But you know,
well, just beyond this, this is a mystery here.
Yeah. But you know, these are people that you can see on the FOI. In fact, there's been others as well. There's quite a few people from the UAP scene. So unfortunately, they're not names I know so well, but I do see them posting on X. X seems to be more the platform. I think there are some on Facebook as well, but X has certainly been more of the platform because you've got the journalists on there, and obviously it started more from, I think, really like the Daily Mail and journalists, you know, more of the tabloid side, posting stuff out. And initially, when it was, because obviously it's a drone, it's a story, isn't it? So, but obviously, once this came out that it was it was the F-15. None of the UAP scene, apart from one guy who was he's been on who'd been on the show. The guy that calls himself the Signal, Dan, I think it is. He did repost it, but other than that, everyone was kind of ignoring it, going, it's not an alien. We don't want to repost it, which is a shame because if something turns out to be something, even if it's not to your liking, it's still the facts, and I don't think it does any harm. I say, well, fair enough this time, and just put it out there.
Isn't that a red card? Sorry, isn't what Ian just said a red card if you don't repost? Everything is okay. Fair enough. I can see the red glow. I'm just trying to think of any other points on this because we've pretty much been pretty much over. I know you were frustrated, Gary, from the fact of the ATC side. There was definitely ATC failings here for not giving out a complete picture, especially to the National Police Air Service. They were getting these continual reports back about where they were seeing the drone and not putting two and two together that's where the F-15 was. You've got the National Police Air Service themselves with their culpability for assuming that because it was a single red light, it was a drone, even though drones don't have high power lights, and that should have told them the absolute opposite, that it wasn't a drone. And I think really that those are the failings here, aren't they?
Yeah, it was communication. When most incidents and accidents in the aviation world come down to communication, don't they, from some form or other. I know, it's quite surprising, isn't it, that with that ball turret camera going around, they can't build up a sky picture and stuff like that just from the imagery. You'd think they'd have a much better an automated thing, because it's an extraordinary bit of kit.
The one they've got in it is a few years old, and it's funny because one of the things on Freedom Information, we've got the model there, and when they've used it on ground pursuits, they track it manually. They don't really use the auto track. It tends to, it can get lost, and it'd probably be harder. But if you remember, when we're looking at the flight path, the helicopter was going at full speed and it was turning around and do. So if you were trying to do that manually and the helicopter's going all over the place, you haven't got a chance. The helicopter would have to be in a hover or just going straight forward and whatever's in front of you is forward. But if you've got the situation where the helicopter's moving about, what you're trying to film's probably moving about, you're probably not getting much. So this is, they've got, as we know, a number of seconds, but what they've probably got, because it will catch the heat, because they've had it in thermal mode probably, is probably just the afterburner, the engine on the jet. So they'd have probably just been seeing this heat source, not knowing what it is. And with their eyes, the only visual cue they would have had is this red light. And from all that, the only thing that's frustrating is that should have never really been even put as a drone, because you're not seeing rotors, you're not seeing a clear thing to say this is a fixed wing. You've not really seen anything where you could say, you couldn't even say that's a military drone that maybe Russia's made. It's like, what have you got?
Maybe they remember that thing from AliExpress, that one that they sell for $26,000.
Probably, but remember, drones are flying in off the sea, having launched from submarines or whatever. Yeah, anyway, of course, it's true. There we are. Yeah, well, there we are.
I think there's also a level of confirmation bias here when it comes to everything is drone.
Yeah.
So if it suits the narrative, let us go with that. And then when it comes down to it was actually an F-15, but that doesn't suit the narrative, and this doesn't know this is not what we like to hear, but we want to hear more about the drone. And if there's anything, then they push. This is a great example of not confirmation.
And it was unlike the Gatwick incident. It was a lovely, lovely clear night. It was clear nights, so people would have been seeing traffic from miles away, airline traffic that they might not normally see. But look, we are going to live. Thankfully, and how I want to end up this little section before we get on to Angry Man is what it really shows is that once you get lots of people putting foyers in quickly and they can't sweep it under the carpet, it comes out. So the best lesson that's been learned from Gatwick is how to do this and how to do it fast. And that's what has to happen. When these things happen, it has to happen fast. And there's been lots of chatter since Friday in the background in a little group that's been set up. And I think there's a group of people ready to, certainly for the UK anyway, to go for it. And in my head, I'm also thinking, gosh, I wonder if we could go via America to get the tapes. But anyway, I think they'll go down as being under security because the F-15s and the tankers were doing security things.
I think there's no harm in asking, because that's the funny thing with America. They're definitely a lot more transparent than we are over here. They might take the time, but they don't seem to play as many silly games. And I know there's one guy that questions stuff about Gatwick to the Secret Service and got a response back, and I'm like, oh, thinking, how easy was that? And the chances are they probably didn't know that much, but they didn't have much to give away. But I do think the way we saw, as we mentioned before, New York and New Jersey, that was very transparent. I think people are realizing that for safety, when you talk about airspace, it's better to be transparent. What is there to hide? What shaming is there in saying it isn't a drone? Because that tells you that actually, well, we're not doing enough about our counter drone, about our visibility of the sky.
The narrative. Well, there's your narrative. They can't say that. It just shows.
Yeah, I mean, well, you can. So the trouble is, people are always in the negative mindset where they think, if there's a drone issue and it wasn't a drone, oh, that's terrible for my counter drone company. No, it's not. If you've got a really good counter drone system, you can actually say, look at all that money that was lost chasing something that wasn't there. If you'd have had the system that told you for a fact it wasn't there and you would have confidence in it, you could have saved all that money. So it's just people not knowing how to push the product where you could actually do it positively from an experience like this.
We've got two avenues to get that stuff out of America. We can either get Patrick to use his contacts. I'm sure he knows people who know people, or we can just get Kevin to hack in and find out what was on the database. Yeah.
Go the Kevin route. I reckon the Kevin route's always good. Now, people in the comments before we started are already talking about DJI in America, and Angry Man, angrier than he I think you made a very fair and valid point, a very, very fair and valid point in your video. Would you like to explain and perhaps explain? Yeah. Oh, look, he's got a microphone. Please talk into the microphone.
Yeah, I've been watching. I've been reading some articles, not on SUAS News. I can honestly say that SUAS News have not been printing this kind of stuff, but I've been, reading about how, there's been a lot of emphasis about saving the hobby and the poor first responders and whatnot, because they're not going to have any drones. And it's, we know, okay, SUAS News has been putting out about these new drones that are coming out from Parrot and whatnot. So there's been a lot of good information, a lot of good knowledge about drones that first responders can use in a sense. So if and when a drone ban comes in, which of course it looks like there's going to be, first responders and whatnot, they're going to have lots of kit out. They're going to have a lot to choose from, and this is not a narrative that we should really have to go down. But and of course, the big worry is the industry. This is what's really really now going to hit hard. It's going to hit hard on many of my friends, people I know in the US, because if they have an incident with one of their drones, they're not going to be able to get it replaced, and that's going to have an impact on their work. And I know in particular how it is when you're working for other companies. And we've had this conversation on here before where we say, okay, you're using DJI, maybe you shouldn't be, you should use something else. Yes, we can use something else, but most of the companies that we work for are actually dictating what we should use, because they're actually designing their software and selling all that data off to their clients based on DJI hardware. So, a good example of that would be, we're doing a lot of wind turbines and stuff, and what we have to use is M350s and a P1 payload with a 50mm lens. So we have we have a few here, but you cannot use anything else, because that is the standard that they use for their own software. So those people in the US, if they're doing solar, if they're doing whatever it is, if something happens to one of their drones and they have to replace it, they're not going to get it replaced. So companies that are relying on this, like Drone Deploy, many other companies in Europe, they are going to be severely affected, because all their clients that they need to supply to are not going to get that data. So the impact on the industry is going to be huge. It's going to be absolutely huge. And this narrative, which I'm seeing about the hobby, is I've just had enough of it. As a hobbyist myself, and I've said this in the video, it makes no difference if the hobby brings nothing. If you're going to go to the Senate and talk about some guy who wants to fly a sub 250 in a park, they're just going to laugh him out the door. But if you want to talk about people's livelihoods, and what that brings to the economy, that is a fair argument. That's something that people need to be talking about.
To jump in there,
that was my point.
The guy in the park, though, is your future commercial operator.
Yeah, I totally agree.
A lot of us started in there just flying around trees, nobody crashing into them. But so I do think the hobbyist is still very important, but I do think probably partly what you're getting at is the politicians and regulators often don't see that anyway.
No. But if you have the industry, you will have the hobby that can support. If you focus on the hobby, you take away and the hobby doesn't win, you lose the industry. If you focus on the industry, you've got a much better argument for the ban.
It's money and votes, jobs.
It's money. It's all money, and that's the thing. So if you go to someone and say, we want to stop the ban because we are bringing this much money into the economy, yeah, that's actually quite a good one. But if you go there and say, I want to fly my sub 250 in a park because I want to catch a nice, sorry mate, that brings nothing to the table. So why are we wasting our time by shouting about the hobby? And again, I do apologize to those out there. I'm not down on the hobby. I am a hobbyist. If you've watched the video, you'll know how angry I am about this. But we need to push. We need to choose a channel but I think we've lost that.
But that also, it speaks to, I'm sorry, I'm jumping in all the time. That speaks to two things really. The thing that people are going on about first responders and all these other things and things they're going on about is it's not just when DJI is gone, which it looks like it probably is now. It's not just that it's the hardware, the flying thing with the spinny things and the camera. It's the software that everyone's written is all written. Everything's written, so it doesn't matter. The Parrot UKR looks fantastic. It does look fantastic, but where's the post-production software? Perhaps Parrot will have something, and perhaps they already have it. Yeah. So there's that part of it, and then just the other point I wanted to say was that the idea that we're chasing the wrong wrong battles in this big war is right, and that's what the industry and the hobby's done this whole time, and that's why we've not coalesced behind a set of ideas to go to the regulator and say it should be like this should be like this. We don't want to read
out one thing though.
Go on, mate.
From economic point, or maybe this hasn't been expressed well enough, but someone should have been there to do that. You do have a lot of companies that make products, that make the filters that go onto your DJI products and that. So there will be a lot of money for people doing accessories on them, and a lot of those are still American companies.
I said that in the video.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, maybe they should have spoken up more as well, and because I've not heard many voices, except for usually like competitors of that who want to talk about it because they see either because they're wanting to push it, or it could just be people on the sidelines commentating about it. But from the retail side and sort of supply of accessories, I've not really heard much, but that's would have struck me as people that would be hurt.
But it's kind of like a shadow ban, isn't it? Because they're holding them up in customs. It's impossible for DJI to do business in America, so they haven't been banned. It's just bloody hard to get the kit in, and allegedly, even DJI can't get the kit into America, and the whole July thing. And don't forget, I think when we were here last week, I think had already Holybro stopped sending stuff. I can't remember. Can't remember where that was last week's one as well. Other things are happening. Simon saying back in our DJI data where I works in valuable data companies with billions of reducing risk. Yeah, just isn't it really? Yeah, that's So there's the drone. There's the drone itself, but then the drone's just the tool, isn't it? It's the software, the post production. The drone is the drone.
It's the software. So it's the payloads, and as I said, and Simon, he's backing me up here, and thanks, Simon. And Simon will know this, that gone are the days when we go to the clients and say, we have this drone, we're going to fly this for you, and they go, oh, thanks. Those days are pretty much gone. We go to them and they go, do you have that drone and do you have that payload? Because that's what we want. That's what we need to capture the data, because it has to match up with everything else that they've been doing over the years. So we're stuck with it. So, that's why, all the drones that we have here, they're not through choice. They are through because the clients are saying to us, this is what so you're stuck in this ecosystem, which of course is fine. It does the job and all the rest of it. But it's so that was the point, and of course I got a lot of support. I got more support than I was expecting. Actually, so
mine's still bigger than his. Mine's bigger than his still. Yeah, no. Joking aside, it is interesting, and of course the people that have been shouting the loudest about it, and that I haven't been reposting on SGS News, are bloody. And I don't think they're doing themselves a favor. They're basically DJI dealers, and people with a very, very specific interest in different things. And that hasn't helped. That hasn't helped at all. But it didn't have RID. It's true.
To be honest, if it was my business and I was losing money, I would still be shouting.
I've got one example. So there's a company that we work with. They're based in Bulgaria, and they handle all the telecom inspection data, and I know that they're doing a lot of work in the US. And they have specific requirements for certain drones, specific drones that they're. And I know that it's going to hit them really hard. If there's a DJI ban, it's going to hit them hard. Now, many of these companies can start to develop and find something else, but that will take time. That will take money. And then you really have to say to them that you say to the companies, this is what you need to now use. So everyone then has to reinvest. This is not going to happen overnight. It's going to be a 6 months to maybe a year process. So, it's going to hit hard.
But people knew at the beginning of this year that the DJI deadline was up for the 31st of December.
Absolutely.
And this year is the year of NDAA. And if you haven't looked in it and done anything about it or thought about it, and as an American operator, then you're not looking very far ahead in your business. You should be knocking on people's software.
Josh is a very good example of this. So because I said
he's not a good example of anything.
he's Canadian. It's okay.
I concur. I concur with Gary.
A good example of a third-party company which is actually building accessories. If you want to say accessories, that's not the best thing to say for that. But which is going to hit the enterprise market, of course. So, and of course, you will be dealing with a lot of DJI drones, so it's going to hit hard there.
I should add with this, there is a degree of karma here, because when the DJI Solo came out, and obviously then it's
DJI Solo, 3DR Solo,
GoPro karma.
When it was Colin Gwynn was there. That's an acceptable mistake.
Colin.
So when the 3DR Solo came out, that really shut the market because they're doing the flyaway guarantee. The software was really cool. It's doing stuff that was so easy to do. That's to do on a DJI these days. You either can't do it, or you have to get a third-party app to do it. But what struck me was some of the biggest trolls and the people that were trying to smash 3DR down were coming into the community and spreading rumors and trying to damage the product. Were people that were developing software for DJI. So they were doing kind of like your autopilot-y stuff. And instead of trying to destroy that, they could have actually made products that were supporting the Solo. Because, the Solo was never locked out from anyone else doing it with it. And obviously that was all Argipilot. So anything you coded would work on any Argipilot drone. And if it hadn't have been destroyed, you would have had a whole product line there already. And all the hobby stuff, you'd support that too. So you would be getting more sales overall. So there is kind of an irony and karma there that those very people that were trying to destroy anything other than DJI, their software sales now, they'll plummet.
One of them actually appeared in Stephen's comments, either on LinkedIn or Facebook or something, or a little pop at him. But there's one name, I'm not going to tell you who it is, but that was one of them. And I just thought, and that's kind of what I thought when I saw that. Well, here we are. It's come to meet you. But yeah, sorry, we jumped all over you there, 1812. It's only just after 6 o'clock in Canada. So what were you going to say there?
Yeah, no, I think Steven's comment's an interesting one. So we're different than somebody who sells a lighter speaker who've been relying on DJI for years in the US to make money, because one thing with us is we've grown as our revenue grown, and the US market really didn't open up till last year. So, we got stuff out for Dock 2, for Mavic 3. Now you see Matrice 4, you'll be seeing Dock 3 soon. But those are the category compliant drones, and those drones are typically under 4 kg. So from my side, I haven't felt the revenue drop because I never had the revenue from that market because the US was so far behind on regulatory. So for me, it's I'm not scaled up where I lose 50% of my revenue. The US is it's less than 25% of my revenue. So it's it sucks. We would have liked to seen that growth opportunity, but I think I think the real people getting screwed again are the resellers. I think the people that are really handcuffed are people that build software off it, whether it's a Raptors map or a drone deploy. Those guys are really going to be in a tough spot. And, those American OEMs are trying to come in and fill that void. But I don't, the problem with my view with a lot of these American VC-backed companies is, one, their timelines are almost done, right? If you look at VC-backed market, you've got to have return your capital within 7-ish years. So say it's been 10 years since you've raised your seed or Series A and you haven't sold those to secondaries, your clock's running. And if you haven't hit a home run gone public, you need to be vertically integrated. You need your full service. You need to be that next Apple. And so I think a lot of these companies, the ones that could benefit from it, they're not thinking long term. When I talk to a drone company, they're not talking 10, 20 years out. It's are you guys just trying to, quick flip, get rid of your business? And this is why you've been doing this lobbying work. And so I think ultimately, yeah, it's the DJI dealers, the authorized dealers who are American-owned companies. It's the service providers that are providing a solution that require their end user to change video formatting. For example, like those, like Inspire 3 was just announced as the Netflix go-to drone. So what happens to Netflix in the US? They can't, what other drones are available? And then ultimately it's like, I think we're going to see changes. I think this current swath of shittiness that we see with all the lobbying efforts will subside, because, like, you know, I know it hasn't gone away in automotive, BYD being like tariffed and all that crap, but like, I think it's like a place in time, and it sucks for everybody to go through these changes. I don't know another instance other than, again, when I reference like the Yamaha, Harley Davidson stuff. I don't know when else we're ever going to get through this, but it creates an opportunity for companies that have a longer view, like a Parrot, right? They've been around for what, 20 years now doing different things. And like, I think that's where the money that companies have received is going to matter on where this goes out. And ultimately, yeah, in the short term, it's going to suck for the police departments. It's going to suck for the professional users that are enterprise and construction and telecom. And hopefully it does something to the market where it creates some more competition. But, you know, one thing that we talk about with our, you know, different government entities is that, like, you know what, I get it. DOD, Department of National Defense, don't buy Chinese drones. Fine. That's pretty practical. I get it. But I don't think when we think of like policing or construction or private enterprises, it's like, why are we getting rid of the better technology that's affordable for something that's overpriced that is from a foreign nation? Now, if it's Canadian, okay, pay the fee. So, and I think a lot of countries are starting to think that, being like, okay, great, we're going to ban DJI because we've been convinced the boogeyman's out, and we're going to look at these lists. But like, if they're all just American, aren't they the boogeyman now? Like, are they part of that team? And I think, you know, as a Canadian, it's different. If I was American, I'd be like, oh, let's buy America. And I get that. But like, thanks, Trump, you've just created nationalism in a lot of countries, and no one wants to play ball with each other because we don't know who the boogeyman is at this point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Long rant to say, yes, Stephen, I agree. I think the accessory companies are feeling it, but I don't feel it every day because the Americans are behind on regulations. No, they're getting better.
Yeah, but it's not just you, and you know, I'm not really trying to point out, you know, individual people. It's just going to, you know, I mean, as you say, Drone Deploy. I've been talking with Drone Deploy because we work with Drone Deploy, and you know, I know it's going to hit them. You know, I know that there are people that have already moved to the UK. There are people in the UK that have moved from the US. There are people there now. So I don't know if that was part of the plan or whatever. But well, you know,
Drone Deploy was two local boys from down the road here. They went to school just here. That's where they came from. Then they went to America and started it.
Well, actually, sorry, one thing, Gary and Stephen, actually, funny story. I'm not going to say who, but I think there's going to be a funny story told in the next couple of weeks how somebody in the drone industry tried to buy a consumer drone from Canada, tried to cross the border, and got turned around by the U.S. Customs. And, yeah, it happened in so one thing you have to realize in Canada when you fly out is our major airports, international airports, actually have U.S. Customs officials on site because we go to the States so much. So if you drive across and you bring something and they don't like it, they can detain you. It's been an issue. But at the border, at the airport, you're not going to get detained, but they can take, and like, this person's phone was downloaded, and they were an American. So I think you're going to see more of this, and like, you're going to see a lot of disruption of people being like, wait, I can't even leave my country now with the US and bring a drone back in that's made from China. Like, what the hell? And the one thing that I would be pointing out and calling out is like, what happens to all these drone manufacturers in the U.S. who are using T-Motor? Are their drones now going to be like, you can bring your drone in only if you cut the motors off? Is that where we're getting to?
Yeah. Well, T-Motor were pulled from the list a long time ago, a couple of years ago. Nobody should be using T-Motors in America. And I see that I've forgotten the name of the company, American Motors, are actually made in India. Now, have they truly checked the supply chain in India? Have they really looked to make sure that there's no Chinese parts in there? I wonder. Yeah, it's going to be run runners in the 20s now. Drone runners. Yeah, exactly.
There must be a way, Josh, for you to take the drone in from Canada to the US if you're like, I don't know, if you're about a mile down the road, put up the drone, fly it as you're going through the border, fly overhead, then you land on the other side. I mean, there must be ways around that. You know
what we could probably, so it's illegal to fly between borders. Transport Canada, FAA are somehow on the same page on this. But you know what we could do? We could use our guided system, drop them from a drone. We'll pick up a fly cart, get it up to 120 meters, drop it from the fly cart. It'll drift. We'll say a 4-to-1 ratio. We could a guided parachute down into, so we won't power it on. But I still think we might get in trouble for that one. So CIA, if you're listening to us, we have no intent to do this. It's okay.
What does conspiracy mean?
I should add, there is something good that could come out of this, and I think if there's any Americans watching, they should make this happen. But I just think this is the perfect opportunity for Colin Gwynn to come back on the scene. I want to see him again with
He's doing those great guns, which I didn't realise. And my children have them. I didn't realise that was his company.
I'm sure he can multitask, and he can be doing the guns, and he can be doing a drone at the same time. It could even
he can sell the guns to the US. Yeah, combine. There we go. No, you know what? I think you're going to see. I think you're going to see the parrots get stronger. You're going to see the Series A companies, Series B companies, in an investment perspective, fall off and get consolidated for pennies on the dollar. And I think you're going to see some consolidation that maybe somebody comes out, a former DJI, a former Autel, a former GoPro, well, maybe not GoPro, but those people pop up and try to go at this again. Like, I think we're in another wave of drones. Like, if, again, I look at like the automotive world, and like in the 60s, Ford and GM own like 60% of the market share, right? And then that's changed, that's ebbed and flowed. And I think that's where, like, again, what is the horizon you're looking at? Are you looking at something to do your job today? Okay, that's different. I get it. You have to make money. You have to do your certain tasks. But, like, what are we looking at in 10 years from now? And, when drones are bigger, but small drones still will have a place. But, yeah, I think the market's just going to change. And whatever this happened recently is just going to be – it's an unfortunate reality that will be laughed at hopefully in 10 years.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I think in 10 years' time, the small ones will be really small and in swarms and do great work close to the ground, and the big ones will be big, and there won't be a 20 kilo range. You'll either be really small and doing the job, or really big and doing the job. That's what I think will happen in that many years' time, and they'll all be. And to come back to Parrot again, Parrot went away from their handbag controller and all those other things and all those weird looks to make something practical and valuable for Ukraine. So they are to be applauded, and they didn't rush it out to market and say, look, here's our thing we've made, it flies in Ukraine and they love it. No, it's been operating in Ukraine, and now they're offering it out to the people. So they've done a flipping good job. I like Parrot. They're very French. They're doing their own thing. And they don't give us
some shares in Parrot. It's time to buy some shares in Parrot.
Is it true that they only have a rear-facing camera on the Parrot?
Yes, that's right. Yes, and they have Surrender Monkey stuff on it as well. No, it's a good company. It is. And yeah, they've been in the game. We've mentioned the 3DR Solo. Well, they were in, I think, the early Anafis round when the Solo came out. So they've been in the game longer than anyone else, really, in the multi-rotor game. There are some German companies longer. Falcon 8s. Yeah.
Anafi here with the camera off and the light bulb on it, and an RTK module on top as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, they're done with Falcon 8s. The trouble with the Falcon 8s is that the pattern on that V, they firmly, I don't know if they still do, but they used to firmly defend that pattern. Otherwise, we'd see a lot more of those. 8 minutes, I think. Was it Falcon 8 because it flew for 8 minutes? It was, I can remember them having terribly short flight time, but quite a nice camera. So there we are. Look, we're just coming up on the hour. Any more before we rush off? No? Going once. Oh, can we actually do it on the hour? Going twice. Dear viewer, wherever you are in the world, look after yourselves. Be careful out there, and we'll see you again next week at 2100 Gin and Tonic. See you next week, everyone. Bye-bye.